Hello, 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 Aggie Pride, and
Aggie Pride.
welcome to the podcast of the Calf Kids. What are we eating today? Today, we're eating our veggies, and we're
Yes, sir.
speaking on
ASMR.
ASMR. Yes, nah, let me stop playing.
And welcome back to our podcast. This is the Calf Kids podcast. I'm Zeala.
I'm Darius.
And this is the podcast where we talk about.
We talking about eating your veggies, kids. All right, getting your vitamin A, C, and all the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. All right, I eat crazy as hell, and Zila doesn't, and we're gonna talk about it.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Yeah, so on this episode we are talking about eat your veggies. What does that mean? Well, it is April 2022. April, as you all know, is the month where we celebrate Earth Day. And little known fact, April 6th is also my anniversary of being vegetarian.
Really?
Yes, sir. This year it is 7 years since I have been veggie. Who would have thought, honestly? Not me.
Who would have thought? Not me.
When I first stopped eating meat, I thought I was just doing a challenge. And now here we are 7 years later living the meat-free lifestyle.
So I want to say, first of all, let's kick it off. Zila, do you miss the meat?
That's a tough question. Because if you would have asked me early on into my veggie lifestyle, I probably would have said yeah. But these days, there's all different types of products out there and available. Fake meats, fake chicken, impossible meats. It's essentially the same thing. One time I had went to Burger King and I had tried to order the Impossible Whopper. Look, let me just say this. Say all you want about Burger King. I know their food is trash. You don't have to tell me. But as far as the veggie game goes, they have been ahead of their game for years. Because for a long time, Burger King was the only place that you could get a veggie burger. Back in the day, they used to actually just have a veggie burger instead of the Impossible Burger that they have now. One time I went to go get an Impossible Burger. They ended up giving me the regular Whopper. And I wasn't aware. This is how I knew that I was biting into a real Whopper as opposed to an Impossible Whopper. Because I took one bite of that burger. That patty didn't have no flavor. I said, this shit tastes like water. And then I looked at the wrapper and I realized that it didn't have the Impossible wrapper, that it was just the regular brown wrapper. For whatever reason, the Impossible Whopper got way more flavor. So to answer your question, no, I don't eat meat because I feel like what I got is just fine.
See, so for me, right, as someone who eating, I wouldn't say normal, what is normal nowadays, but eating meat, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I can tell. Like, I feel like, you know when people say, like, oh, it tastes like the same thing? No, it don't. I'm sorry. Them is the veggie nuggets, but it's in like a green box.
The Morningstar nuggets?
Morningstar nuggets do not taste like real nuggets, okay? That shit do not taste like chicken. I don't care what y'all say. It don't. You're faking yourselves, people. Maybe because I'm too brainwashed by what, like, with meat and the taste of meat. But I feel like that's me. What makes it hard for me when it comes to eating healthier in general is that, you know, I'm just gonna say it, like, I am a Negro, okay? I have nigga taste buds, all right? I'm used to pork chops and rice and gravy and paprika, and so when you get
Paprika. Okay, all right, go ahead.
so when you get to these vegan options, like, yeah, it tastes the same maybe to your unethnic mouths, but to me it's like something's missing, something's askew, something is amiss, and I just like that thing. It's hard for me. Can we say that? I think over time when you stop eating something, like for me, guys, I know I'm gonna shake some tables on this. I don't eat cheese. I haven't eaten cheese since I was 3 years old. Right, I had a bad experience. I was a little kid. I ate mac and cheese at daycare, made me throw up. I never ate cheese again. So to me, cheese tastes gross, right? You're gonna be like, Darius, no, like,
You are on the fringes on that one because I'm
on the
I
fringes.
like cheese.
So that's what I'm saying. So when it comes to, I just need to stop eating meat, and then it tastes like water. But to me, I feel like when you bite down into a piece of meat, I can taste it. You know what I'm saying? So I think it is a difference.
Now, I will say, I think it also depends on the kind of meat that you're trying to replicate because I think as far as the vegans go, man, the vegans have got a burger down pat. They know how to make a burger taste like a burger. Chicken is a little more complicated, and even more complicated is bacon. I agree. I think some of the faux meats kind of miss the mark, but at the same time, they still kind of satisfy that kind of craving or that nostalgic craving that I get. I guess is a better way to describe it, because I don't necessarily want meat. I be wanting a burger. What can I say?
Have you ever had stuffed bell peppers?
Yeah, it's not my
Like,
favorite. I mean, look, hey, let me not talk mess though, because it's this Mexican authentic dish called chiles rellenos, which is literally a stuffed poblano pepper.
I
You know what I'm saying? My mama used to make that. It was not my favorite. Peace and love to my mother. Peace and love to the Mexican people. It's just not for me. Why about it?
No, I'm just saying that's the one thing that's like vegetarian slash vegan now tear up. I work at not currently, but I'm involved in something called SAY, right? The Stuttering Association for the Young, and they have a camp every summer, right? And so at this camp, because I don't eat cheese and everything got goddamn cheese on it, when there's dishes like pizza or anything that little kids like to eat, I'll get the vegetarian or vegan option. And a lot of times they have these tough bell peppers, and they're like the green bell peppers have the rice and everything in it. I will tear that up. I will give you that. So that's the one thing that's like straight vegan, vegetarian vegan that I will tear up in a heartbeat. I feel like when it comes to, I think, eating healthy and veganism, right?
Let's not get those conflated though, because I definitely don't think that veganism and vegetarianism is equal to healthy. Because
Really? Talk about that.
prime example number one, me, I'm a big bitch and I've been vegetarian for 7 years. That don't mean that I'm healthy. Look, people ask me all the time, you don't eat meat, so then what do you eat? Girl, look, I have gotten that question so many times in my life. It's not even funny. Because I'm just like, okay, now close your eyes.
Okay, I'm closing them.
Think about all the foods that are out there in this world that are not meat. That's what I eat. That means mozzarella sticks. That means curly fries. That means goddamn honey buns. Nah, not really honey buns. Honey buns don't even hit like that. I feel like honey buns stop hitting after like you're like 8 years old. After that, it's just like, okay, this is.
I'm not gonna lie, honey buns are overplayed. I'm not gonna. I think we ate too much of them back in like
society,
04.
As a society, I feel like we overdid it, or maybe they changed the
Bro.
formula or something. Cause
And maybe it's the formula. It's a lot of things. Like, bro, I think like when it comes to things, I feel like just in general, a lot of stuff we used to eat ain't. I remember a zebra cake used to hit, and you eat one now. Like, what am I eating? Maybe because we got older, but.
But back to what you were saying. You think that healthy foods it equates to vegetarian and vegan food?
Yes.
Why?
That's
Why
what
do you
I
think
thought.
that?
Because I feel like whenever, I think the general public, right, when you are looking at people who quote unquote are healthy, right, you look at these actors and actresses and everybody with the body yaddies and and them tittying, right?
Okay.
A lot of them will say like, alkaline water and I eat healthy, I'm a vegan. That has usually that's the vibe, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people, who live this type of lifestyle usually, but I think too, they're more active and stuff like that in general, but I think that's why it's tied to that. It's, hey, you need to eat healthy. Eating healthy is eating your fruits and vegetables, right? So a diet consists of all the fruits and vegetables, and your brain says it's healthy.
See, that's complicated though. I feel like you said, these big name actors and actresses in Hollywood who like turned vegan after they started to get exposed to that kind of lifestyle. It's because they got all these trainers. It's because they got nutritionists. It's because they got personal chefs. I bet you they probably wouldn't have done that if they're like regular people who work 9-to-5 jobs, who got to cook after work. You know what I'm saying? After work, you go pick up some food at the drive-thru because that's most convenient. Like, I feel like that comes with the territory. That comes with the lifestyle. But you were talking about alkaline water, and that reminded me. I know it's been on the timeline. They've been roasting that man, that rapper. Look, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's
Yes, it
NLE
is.
Choppa. They've been clowning on him on the timeline because he said, the fact that eggs are aborted chicken and people eat it don't sit right with me. And somebody said, hold on, let me send this tweet to you real quick so you can read that, because I don't think it's going to come out the same way if I say it.
All right, so this is your Darius nigger rating. Bro raps about robbing and shooting niggas, but eating eggs is where he draws the line. I feel that there is a lot of people nowadays who jump on the alkaline Dr. Sebi shit, right? All the time.
What is
and
this
I get
alkaline
it.
Dr. Sebi shit? I don't know what this is.
Okay. Oh, I would love to tell you, Zeala. Thanks for asking. There was a man named Dr. Sebi, right?
Okay.
He preached on veganism and on people say neo-veganism too, getting things from the earth and detoxifying your body. He's one of the first people to really get that. People talk about like getting your toxins and shit like that, right? He is famous for saying that he used his methods to help people cure AIDS. in some way, shape, or form had an effect of helping their AIDS, right? So he is as in the black community, right? When people talk about Dr. Sebi, it's we gotta eat healthy and detoxify your body. Now, with that being said, in the future, there are some people with controversies saying that what he talked about was dangerous and malnutrition and different things down here. I'm not saying about him as a person. What I am saying though is the people will hear about that and just run with it and go with the hey, I drink alkaline, waters and shit, and I gotta detoxify my body, and that's why those type of people come up when we talk about those certain things. And Annalie Choppa kind of reminds me of those type of people, right? Of we gotta eat healthy and getting here and eggs and some people just be making up shit, right? I don't even think that an egg is a chicken abortion. I don't think that's the right term for it. When Annalie Choppa and others talk about eating healthy, sometimes their reasonings are things that are not based in scientific facts, and that's what I mean by that, Zeala Sanchez.
Let's go over Dr. Sebi real quick.
Talk to me.
So Dr. Sebi is a black man, or he was a black man. Is he still alive?
No, he's dead. He passed away.
Oh.
Now he was a black. He stopped being black.
Honduran herbalist. So he's an Afro-Latino man.
Yes, he is.
Okay, shout out to the Afro-Latinos.
Okay, shout out to Wikipedia. Shout out to Wikipedia.
Yes, sir. You already know. As far as the alkaline water, though, I think the claims, here's what I heard. Alkaline water, it's basically water that has a higher pH level than regular drinking water or most normal bottled waters. And so for that reason, people advocate for drinking alkaline water because they say that it can help to neutralize the acid in your body. Normally, bottled water has a pH balance of about 7, and alkaline water is more so about an 8 or a 9. I have heard that there can be benefits to drinking alkaline water. I mean, that makes sense. There's people out there that put like a dash of baking soda and a pinch of sea salt into their drinking water because it's supposed to, 1, help make the water more alkaline, and 2, help replenish those electrolytes, because they said that drinking regular like bottled water can actually dehydrate you is what some people say, because it washes out those electrolytes, whereas like if you add a dash or a pinch of sea salt, it helps to replenish those electrolytes. But as far as the eggs go, upon a quick little Google research, it says that most eggs are not actually chicken abortions. Like other birds, chicken eggs have some differences from those of mammals. The process to make eggs for chicken is quite unique. Chicken eggs can be fertilized or unfertilized. So, if anything, it's a chicken period. So
we are eating chicken periods, and I love my chicken periods with double, hash browns with onions at Waffle House, and I think that's okay.
I'm not about to sit here and argue about whether or not it's wrong to eat eggs. I think eggs is something that people have consumed for a long time. However, I do have some grievances with the meat industry, and that's actually why I went veggie in the first place. Shout out to Cowspiracy, which is a documentary. I think it's still on Netflix. I'm not sure, but I first saw it when I was in high school. And that and the documentary called Vegucated. Saw those two on Netflix, changed my life. I had to go vegan after that. Yeah.
What type of things were covered in that documentary series?
Well, they go over like the main talking points when most people argue for veganism, which is the impact that the meat industry, more specifically the beef industry, has on the climate, and adds on to the greenhouse gases that are in our atmosphere that lead to the greenhouse gas effect, which leads to a hole in the ozone, and it's getting hotter. And of course, with it getting hotter, like sea levels are rising, and it's a whole mess on the climate side. It's about to start climate wars. You know what I'm saying? It's about to be whole ass countries underwater. It's going to be crazy. But then they also talk about the effect that really processed meat has on the body, which of course we already know that super processed foods is not good for you. And of course you should be eating vegetables. I think the main 3 is like environmental, health, and then of course animal welfare. Like,
do you feel like you being vegan or people being vegan would even make a dent in the meat industry?
I love that you asked that, Darius. I love that you asked that, because I really do think that I can have an impact as a single individual. The biggest, most number one way that you can reduce your carbon footprint is in being mindful of the things that you consume, specifically food, And reducing your meat intake greatly reduces your carbon footprint. And with that comes like the amount of the resources that things need to arrive to you to feed you. We have all of this land on the earth, right? A lot of it can be used for farming. Most of it is used for farming. There are way more farms in America than you would even think, right? Like, think about when you go on a road trip, all that farmland that you pass through. Like, when you're driving through Iowa, when you're driving through, like, Illinois, when you're driving through Kentucky, like, you're just driving through farms. All of this land that we have, right? The majority of that, all those crops grown, the majority of the crops grown on that land is being used to feed the cows that we're raising, the chickens, the pigs, right? All of that is being used just to feed those animals, which will eventually feed you. Whereas if you consume produce more than you do meat, you're consuming like less energy or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the biggest way that you can reduce your carbon footprint is in reducing your meat intake, right? And not even just that, like as a person who has been meat free for 7 years, I can tell you I have influenced my friends to be more open-minded about the kind of lifestyle that I live, to be more informed about why I live this kind of lifestyle, right? I definitely do think that I can have an impact as a singular person in the ways that I choose to live my life. And I say that also because there are tons of people who are just like me, who are all just fighting their fight on their own, who aren't necessarily activists, because I wouldn't even necessarily say that I'm an activist for all of this. I really just do me. But at the same time, in these last 7 years, the market has changed so much. And when I was in high school and I was veggie, all I really had to pick from was like Morningstar. And now you got all these brands coming out with fake meat, like Daring is another one that I really love. The Impossible meat, the Beyond meat, all of that stuff wasn't even around when I first went vegetarian. And now it is. And now you got burgers at Burger King that are vegan. And that's just because a lot of people just like me decided to make that choice. And here we are.
The thoughts and sentences that Darius Fogey's about to say is only on Darius Fogey. Okay. I, Darius Fogey, stand by what I'm about to say. Are y'all ready?
Go ahead.
I feel the whole carbon footprint thing is bullshit, and this is why. I feel that they're already slaughtering cows all across the country, right? They're all the only reason they even have these meat stuff. Of course, there is a trend of more people going to, but they at the end of the day, right? I feel like the social responsibility isn't on the consumer, is on the person making the product.
Absolutely.
If we slaughter 1 million cows and we only eat 100,000 of them, it doesn't change the fact that we still killed 1 million cows. So the only way we can change any carbon footprint is by these companies. I feel that me eating less meat doesn't do anything. At the same time, they still killed 1 million cows. So it's not against you to make your carbon footprint. It's against those companies to change their business practices so that, in general, that carbon footprint will be smaller. There has been change. There's been such a change in general in America in terms of social issues and people being more open to things. There is a growing market in the vegetarian and vegan and in general vegetable based food market. Okay. But at the same time, I do feel is that the only way we can make change is for the companies to make change themselves. And until that, it does not matter what you do, they're still killing 1 million cows. So I feel that at that point you're actually wasting food. So I feel that the only way we make this change is to have these companies. Now, the companies will, of course, make less meat if there's less a market of meat, because everything on the earth consists about money make the world go around. You feel what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So when they find out that this is not a viable option, is there. Now I do feel is that by the time me and you are somebody's grandparents, it's going to be a different meat industry. But as of right now, there's too many people going to Waffle House every day. It's too many country ass niggas after church getting them a goddamn Salisbury steak. I think the market is too big for it to stop, right? There's too many jobs. People's careers is based upon the meat industry. The waste and stuff that you everything you said is completely right, but I do feel is that it's not on me to change the world. It's about those governments who fucked the world up in the first place. And I feel like that's the only way we can make a change.
I think in a lot of ways you do have a point. I agree. Look, I agree that we got to hold these food providers have to be held accountable, right? I agree that my lifestyle is not going to make anywhere as close to a big difference as the laws, the big Tysons and all these other big companies that do all the meat packing or whatever. Absolutely, they have to change. They have to make the change in order for there to be a real significant wave in the way that people like consume stuff, right? But just because I don't make anywhere as close as an impact as a company could, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to make difference, right?
Makes sense. Yeah.
You have a point, right? There's always going to be all those people that want to go to the Waffle House and the cookouts of America, and there's going to be people that want to do backyard barbecues. I understand that, right? Like I'm not going to fault you for wanting that. But at the same time, we have to look at this from the perspective that we as Americans are so unbelievably privileged in the amount of food choices that we have at the supermarket. Mm-hmm. There's so many countries that don't have supermarkets anywhere as close as big as our regular ones, right? The regular degular Harris Teeter, the regular degular Aldi, right? Like we have all these options of foods, and that is a truly Western privilege, right? Like not just American, but these big Western countries, like that is our privilege, right? And so with all of these choices, people of course are going to want to go for convenience. People of course are going to want to go for what's been like normalized in our society, which is eating meat every day, like meat with every meal. Mm-hmm. And what we have to understand is that like not every country operates the same way that America does. Mm-hmm. And in fact, if every country in the world consumed meat at the rate that America does, there would literally not be enough land to cultivate enough crops to feed all the animals that would be needed to feed everybody on Earth. Mm-hmm. There is more than enough crops on this earth to feed every single person on this planet and then some, right? But I'm going back to the majority of those crops, they're not even feeding humans, they're feeding animals. That's mm-hmm. where it's going, right? So I agree. I think that it does fall on the hands of the big companies who are producing waste, who are producing pollution, who are overpacking animals in ways that are unsustainable, right? But like I said, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to do my part. There's enough people, I think, that are on this kind of wavelength that I am, that there are changes being made, right? Because I remember I saw a commercial for milk. I was like, when the hell was the last time you saw a commercial for milk? That's how you know. That's how you know the milk industry is suffering with all the new almond milks and oat milks and soy milks that are coming out. People are turning to that, right? They're not even drinking regular milk anymore.
I would say I drink lactate, keeping it real with you. I would drink the fuck out some lactate. So yeah, you're right.
And there's also, I saw a commercial for beef, like literally beef. I was like, they were like, buy beef, da 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 da. That's because they're suffering. That's because they know that their market is shrinking. Like you said, the world goes round based on what's profitable. And they understand that people are turning away from them and going to other sources, and that's why I'm starting to see these commercials. Like, when else in life, 10 years ago, you would not have seen a commercial about beef, because they're not competing with Impossible. They weren't competing with Beyond, but now they are. So I do think that I am making a change, and that's why I do continue to participate in the lifestyle that I do. So I understand, like, obviously you can't change everybody's mind, right? You can't change Aunt Bertha's mind about the fact that she can't make her greens with her ham and all her everything like that. I'm not gonna change her mind.
We love Aunt Bertha
and her greens.
Big ass arm, and you know the little arm wings that Auntie got.
She got the little jiggle about it.
Got the jiggly.
She churning that pot, and her arms swinging, bro. That's how you know it's about to be good.
Aggie pride.
And of course, what I'm saying, like, I want more people to eat more plant-based foods. I want people to turn away from meat at every single meal. I don't understand what is so big a deal. If it doesn't have meat, then is it even a real meal? I don't understand that mentality. I probably did when I was growing up, but now I'm just like, y'all are sick in the head. Y'all are, I'm sorry, that's dramatic. That's dramatic.
I was like, okay, let's not, the thoughts and feelings of Zeala Sanchez.
The thoughts and feelings of Zeala Sanchez, yes, I will say it with my whole entire chest. I think that's kind of like, if you really think that you can't enjoy a meal if it doesn't have meat, then you, my friend, are in shackles. You are in mental shackles. The fact that you think you have to have meat in order for a meal to be enjoyable, for it to be fulfilling, for it to be satisfying, that's kind of crazy, right? Because not everybody in the world lives the way that you do, but people are creatures of habit, right? Like if you grew up eating meat, you want to eat meat. And that's where I think we have to break those, in my opinion, generational curses.
See, I do feel okay. So there's a two-prong answer to that. A, I do feel that yes, um, it is shackles, right? But at the same time, like example, I just ate Chick-fil-A today, right? And I had me that 4-piece with a large fry and a fruit punch, and that shit was busting with the barbecue sauce, right?
Okay.
And I think it really what you said too about like beef. I feel like don't now I'm not now like I feel like the products that are imitation beef like they are pretty close. I can't lie, they are pretty close. But you kind of when you eat so long, especially for me being a little chubby too, it's kind of like you know the difference. You know, it's clear, but you fucking know it ain't the whole thing. And I feel like, and I just feel like, you know, when we get to these things, I feel like until it's exact, that's the only way we'll break those shackles is when it's exactly like it. It's not close to it. I want because my thing too is that why would I pay a lot to the price points? Why would I pay money for something that isn't exactly what I want? Right? What's the point? That's A.
Yeah.
B is I remember you said other parts of the world, and this is again the thoughts and feelings of Darius Fogarty. But I do feel as an American, personally, all because somebody does some shit in Japan doesn't mean I should be doing it over here. That's not my fucking business, right? We live in goddamn America, baby. And I feel like in America, when I want some beef ribs, I get fucking beef ribs. That's what makes America America. The choice. The choice is of that. Like I can go Chick-fil-A or McDonald's and stuff like that. Now it can be done, but it doesn't mean that I have to do it, Aggie Pride. And I feel like it is the shackles. I feel like because I feel like if you tell the average person like, hey, listen, in these countries, me every diet, everything here, their natural thing would be, I don't give a fuck about that. That had nothing to fucking do about me. I want to eat my food. I want to eat my food, and I feel like the biggest thing I think that narrows it down to is not tasting the same. It's close, but it doesn't taste the same. And we were talking about meat at every meal. Like I would eat, I do eat Cheerios, for breakfast or something, right? That's not meat, right? And then we think about lunch, right? I'm trying to think of like what would I eat for lunch? Well, what do I even like to eat, right? So let's say if you got like a possible burger, or we just got vegan food today. I got garlic bread and imitation crab meat and stuff like that. Like there's ways to do it, but at the same time, I feel like a world where I don't eat meat all the time, it'll be close, but it won't be the exact same. And I feel like until it tastes exactly like it is when we'll make the switch. Now I feel like over time, yeah, people are gonna be more health conscious, and it's not sustainable anyway. So I feel like it's gonna break down. But I feel like there's always gonna be a McDonald's somewhere. May not be a lot, but there's always going to be an area for that. I feel like it's really about farming in the right way, that it can be the right way. And also, too, I say breaking the shackles, but I feel like the shackles will only be broken when you have a equal, superlative of it.
I do hear you on that. I have to say, as someone who has not been eating meat for the last 7 years, I don't really care about that, the exact hitting the mark or whatever. But I do understand that, right? I do understand that there is a shift in food culture, right? And how you were saying, people in other countries don't care about what we got going on over here. I think it's actually the exact opposite, right? These developing countries, we are a developed country, right? I mean, not all the way. Let's be real. We're not all the way developed in every single aspect of society in America, right? But we are considered a developed society, right? These developing societies, right? What they have to aspire to in order to catch up, right, is the America, right? Is the American culture, right? These developing countries, the more they ascend in terms of economical and political power, the more they assimilate to Western culture. And that it boils down to food, right? As they assimilate into these like more powerful entities, they try to follow in the footsteps and the lifestyles of Western cultures. And again, it really all boils down to how they eat as well, right? Because the more powerful a country is, the more resources they have. The more resources they have, the more money they can put into their agricultural industries. The more money they can put into their agricultural industries, the more they have left over to feed more animals instead of just feeding their people. And that's why I disagree. I think that it is the exact opposite. I think people in developing countries who have maybe seen on the internet all these American foods, they want to try that. They know it looks good. They see it. They see how people eat. They're like, we want that too. And that doesn't go for countries like Japan who are doing their own thing. They've been doing their own thing for a while. But I'm talking about the more challenged countries, I will say. And something else that you touched on, and I think it's important to highlight, is that I agree that the prices of meat alternatives do cost higher, right, than a 1 pound of ground beef, right? I agree that if you go to Walmart right now and you try to buy a pound of ground beef and a pound of Impossible beef, that Impossible beef about to be $6. I don't really know how much beef costs these days, the regular ground beef, but I know that the Impossible beef, that's going to be about $6. I understand that it's more expensive, and I understand as well that not everybody can afford to just give up meat, right? Because especially when you're living in food deserts, when you're living in places where you can't get accessible and healthy groceries all the time, you're gonna have to go with what the cheapest option is, right? So I'm not talking to the mother who's got 2 kids to raise on 1 income. I'm not talking to her. I know that she's getting by however she can. I'm not judging her on that. But anybody who has like a disposable income really should be more conscious of how they spend their money, right? Because like I said, it might not seem like we're making a difference, but me choosing to live this lifestyle is taking money away from the beef industry, and they're trying to get that back. So I think anybody who has the means to take a look at the choices that they make in terms of the food they buy, I mean, I think you should go for it. Like, for example, I know that buying eggs at like Walmart, for example, if you get the 18 eggs, the large eggs that come in the styrofoam little carton thing, I know that's about like $2, right? Like that's $2 or $3. I personally buy it's this brand called Nellie's free range eggs, it's supposed to be better than cage free, because cage free just means that they're not in cages, but they might still be like in this enclosure type thing, just all stuffed in there. I think free range more so speaks to they're not in cages and they have access to outdoors. I buy those type of eggs. Those, for a dozen eggs, it costs about $4. I understand that there's a steep price difference in making more conscious decisions to your food, but I think those that have a little bit more room to spend should, right? Like that's how I feel. But I agree. I think that the more that our plant-based industry grows, the more they will be able to make it more accessible, A, more affordable, B, and more on brand with how beef, chicken, and all those other things taste like. Like shit, they might even, I know that there's this one bodega in New York that is purely vegan food, and they got all types of food, like imitation crab, imitation lobster, like all types of every type of food that you can think of, and it's all vegan. And I'm like, I don't know how they do that, but how does it taste? I have no idea, but the market is there and it's growing and it's competing. And that I'm excited for it.
I think too, something that's popped in my brain is, I think it's the culture around it. I feel like when you think of veganism, you think of like some like hairy armpit white lady, like, hey man, you know what I mean? Like that's why I think at the Whole Foods, and we just gotta eat vegan, man. Just get closer to Earth. No war, right? and I feel like there are some subsects of people in America who do not like those people. So it's kind of like, why, when you say vegan, my brain always hits like, that thing gonna have no flavor, have no taste, it's gonna be some hippie people, and shit gonna cost too much at a goddamn open air food market. And I feel like it's just like breaking out of that too. Again, having bodegas, making it cool, right? Making it like an accessible, and not just the culture behind it of, okay, these are just pretentious people who think they're better than me, but okay, this is actually really good food and it's good for you. I feel like that too, we got to work on. I think is just the what's around it, right? What when you say healthy, what do you see healthy? When you say vegan, what do you see vegan? And I feel like when you think of like, okay, what's like the most delicious food you can think of, a piece of meat pops in your head. You know what I mean? I think that's what we're trained for. Is that like, you know, a
Yeah.
succulent steak or stuff like that. So I feel like that
Ooh,
is
not succulent steak.
succulent steak. You know what I mean? Nice, you know. So I feel like, because for me, I love Asian food, right?
Yeah.
I love Korean barbecue. So like some good spicy pork bulgogi is gonna. That's what I'm saying. Until they make that food taste like spicy pork bulgogi, is it's hard to switch. Now I do why I do think it should be a hybrid, right? It's the okay in the times where, you know, you can be healthier. Let's, you know, make the extra step to, you know, get places and eat a little better. But, you know, if you want spicy pork bulgogi now and again, that's also okay too. I feel like it shouldn't. There's no absolutes in life.
Right.
And I feel that's okay. I think working it in there, because again, you know, the industry is the industry. There's really people's jobs behind it, stuff like that. It's there, and I feel like I don't think the answer is killing a whole entire industry just because of our personal beliefs. It's okay. Well, how can you make this better? That, you know, instead of killing 1,000,000 cows, we only kill, you know, 250,000 because the need is there in the first place, right? A set of, you know, having to waste, let's use this, you know, waste and stuff like that. So I feel like in the right ways, and, you know, I think that's what really, if you had it that way, people were way more likely to be like, okay, cool. But I think the whole basis of the veganism and vegetarianism in my brain is that, like, okay, we need to, you know, do this to make the world better and stuff like that, and the rising things. But people are selfish in America, right? And when you was talking about developing countries, the average person is gonna just be like, okay, that's great, but that was their choice to follow me. You didn't like you're a grown adult and you chose to be like me. Like, I didn't ask you to be like me. You wanted to be like me, right?
What do you mean by be like me?
Be like me in terms of when you were saying about developing countries want to go in America and they see our food and want to taste it and try it.
Yeah.
I feel like at the end of the day, that's your choice to try to taste it and try it. Like if you knew it was fucked up and you still wanted to be like me, that's on you. Like, that was your choice. It's like, it shouldn't be. This is my just personal feeling, is that me as a person, is not my job to make you as a person have better decisions. Like, I feel like if you saw me doing drugs and turning up and you say, oh, that's fun, I didn't put the crack pipe in your mouth, baby. You did. All right? You knew I was fucked up, and you're still trying to be like me. So I feel like that's the thing. A lot of times when it comes to social responsibility, people are, you know, selfish. Like, I don't care. They only care about them goddamn selves. And myself is, I'm gonna fuck up my body with this goddamn top ramen. You know what I mean? I'm gonna eat this bucket of KS and, you know, try you fucking want to. But that's what I'm saying. So where it should be, hey, listen, you know, this is something that's healthy for you, is good for you, and it tastes just like that bucket of KFC without making you fat all the fucking time. Let's eat this. That's the easier sell to people. And I feel like, I was saying, the culture of vegan and stuff like that is that, you know, like, my keywords I think about it is like pretentious people. It's just like, oh, you think you're better than me? Oh, whatever. Like, just eat a hamburger, baby. Have fun. But that's what I'm saying. Until it's fun, until, you know, I only Chopper in them are one thing. But until I see, like, you know, like Tyler Creator legit eating a vegan burger and be like, I'm not doing it just to fucking do, I do this because that's really good for me, then, you feel what I'm saying? It's the culture around it that needs to get changed.
I see where you're coming from. When you talk about, you know, somebody from another country making their choices, I don't think it's that simple though, right? Because especially if you're from a country where you're struggling, where everybody around you is struggling, where the supermarkets aren't fully stocked ever, where, you know, you're, as a society, not living in indulgence how Americans do. Of course you'd want to live in indulgence too, right? I think America equals indulgence. I think we're synonymous with indulgence, right? And for those who don't ever get to indulge, I think that's why they want to be like us. I think that's why, because that's not something that they get to experience in their society. And I agree, it's not necessarily our fault that they're doing that too, or that they'd want that too, but I can understand why they would want to.
Oh, of course.
And I think at the same time, you know, you said that you think of veganism, it equates to pretentiousness. I don't know why you think that. I don't know why. I mean, if you think that somebody is better than you because they feel boldly and strongly about their veganism, I mean, to me, that kind of is like, oh, so then you kind of admit that we're right.
In a way, okay, this is how I feel, right? I feel it's just like, again, you know, again, this is just me, but I personally, it throws me off when it throws me off when I feel like somebody has a point on something, and I take it as they feel that they're high and mighty, right? So I feel like I think that's I can only speak for myself, but when I hear about veganism, I think of people, not always, but I feel like the essentialness of veganism is something that don't taste good, it's unflavorful, and the majority of those people are, think they're thinking they're better than me, or if I eat meat, it's like, oh my god, you know what I mean? You still eat cows, my brother. You feel what I'm saying? Like, you gotta do better than that. So what I'm saying is like, shut the fuck up. You feel what I'm saying? It automatically makes me go, shut the fuck up. Like, I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the energy that I perceive by it. That's what I mean by that pretentiousness. Not every veganism is like that, but I feel like there is people who are vegetarians of veganism, and that's their personality trait. Like, that's why they, you know what I mean? And then it annoys the fuck out of me when it is, right? And so I feel like that goes into a whole bushel of stuff about farmers markets and gentrification and shit. But I feel like,
I do want to speak on that for a second.
Yeah, speak on that. What's up? Speak on that.
Nah, I agree, man. I do think that there are some veggies out there, some veggie heads who are annoying as hell about it. I do agree. They got to insert themselves where they probably don't belong. And I think that's a general trait of a certain kind of people, and I think you know who I'm talking about, who like to insert themselves. And that's not just vegans, it's a certain brand.
We get it, the whites. Yes, keep going.
Okay. In America, at least, I obviously don't know about any other country, but that first wave of veganism, I think they led the way, right? Because for people to choose veganism, you have to have a certain level of privilege. And I'll be the first one to admit it. I'm not vegan. I do eat plant-based most of the time. I still consume eggs. Like I said, I still eat cheese. And the vegans are going to come for me for that. I don't care. Any progress is progress. So fuck y'all. Anyway, I do think that the first wave of veganism, it was led by privileged white people who opted out of the regular norms of society way back in whenever that was, right? Like the hippie eras or whatever. They had that privilege to be like, no, we're not doing it, and you're so wrong for doing it. Not keeping in mind that single mom who got to feed her children any way she can, right? You're not keeping those people in mind. Right. So I agree that there are some people that are pretentious. And I think that's why people have that kind of like, they have that connotation towards veganism, right? They have that mentality that you're pretentious because you're annoying. And I think that mentality stems from the first wave of veganism, the first wave who was led by white people, right? Because they were the ones that were privileged enough to opt out, right? Not everybody, especially disenfranchised communities like my people, the Latino people, like your people, black people, we've been disenfranchised. We couldn't just say like, oh, we're not going to eat that because we got to get it how we can, right? Like that's just that's always how it's been, right? So I think that's where that connotation comes from, but I don't necessarily think it's the truth.
No, I also too is something you just brought up. As I'm thinking back in my brain, a lot of recipes and stuff that are from our cultures actually have a lot of fruits and vegetables in it originally.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so it's not that hard of a jump. Like, it's not an example. Like, you just brought up collard greens, right?
Right.
Like if you got a substitute, most people are gonna eat the fuck out of some collard greens. That's literally a vegetable. It is, you make it the right way because there's the pork in it to make it better. But you know what I'm saying? Like in general, yams and you know what I mean. Like people eat vegetables. It's just, you know what I'm saying? It's just really that. That too, something you just said about, if it's not a meal, they ain't have meat in it. Like if I just had yams, collard greens, all the sides you get at Thanksgiving, the mac and cheese and yams, collard greens, and there was no turkey, would you consider that a meal? And a lot of people would be like, wait, where's my turkey at? But it's in your brain. It should really think, it's just gonna make me full. You know what I mean?
That's
exactly, it's gonna give me the nutrients, and
that's me on Thanksgiving every year. I don't be eating the ham, I don't be eating the turkey, but I eat the fuck out of the sides though, and I still get full. I will still eat till I get stuffed, right? And I think that's a really good way to address that, right? Like for me, at least, right? When I look at a fake chicken sandwich, right? When I look at a plant-based chicken sandwich, I don't look at it like, oh, this isn't even chicken. It's not even gonna taste like chicken. I think of it as a food, right? Like, and I think that's where there's a cognitive dissonance, right? There's a disassociation for a lot of people, maybe including yourself, right? Like, You eat
It
something
is.
and it's like, oh, this isn't chicken, right? But for me, I'm like, oh, this is a good food. For as a food, this is amazing, right? As a food, 10 out of 10, bro. This shit is bomb. As a chicken sandwich, right? It's not all the way there, right? It's not all the way there. It's not all the way there yet, right? But and I think that's where I can differentiate my plant-based food as opposed to meat, right? Like, and I think that's where there's that disassociation, right? Like, I love the fuck out of food. I just don't like meat. But I don't necessarily care that that food tastes exactly like meat. And that's where I kind of like draw the line in the sand. So
Got
I
you.
think that's a good point, right? Like, I think that's a good point, right? Like, I think that there is that disconnect where people will take a look at a plate and think, oh, is this going to be filling, as opposed to, oh, it's don't even got meat on it. I think that's a really good point that you made. And I think that's where I differentiate myself. And I think that's where some people probably don't or probably can't. So I think that's also like that kind of mental, like I said, mental shackles.
See, also too, you've been out of the meat game for 7 years, right?
Yeah.
So for somebody who's just new and they're transitioning, it's hard to say, all right, I went from eating pork chops, rice, and gravy, and now it's plant based. It's a shock. You
Yeah.
feel what I'm saying? I think that's what it is. I think the initial time eating it is a shock. Like, this shit don't taste the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like, so naturally you're like, why am I even eating this shit? And it's expensive. I don't even like it.
Right.
So it's kind of that's what I'm saying. The only way that switch can happen is that bitch tastes just like your grandma's, ham hocks. Until then, the majority of people are not gonna make that wave. Something that I wanna talk about too is, tell me about your initial journey of being vegan. So after the first couple months, what happens next for you? I mean, how did you adjust?
Well, you know what? It wasn't even the first couple months because I really did take it 1 month at a time.
Okay.
Let me tell you my story. So back in 2015, I think it was April. Of course, it was April. Back April 2015, I was on Instagram, and this was when it was kind of falling out of like, it was like not really trendy anymore. But back in the day, like on Instagram, they used to be posting these like 1 month challenges where like for 1 month, like you post every single day about a certain thing.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So there was this one challenge, and it was like, for the month of April, you have to give something up. And at first, I gave up chocolate because I was like, I can live without chocolate. But at the same time, it was so easy, right? Because I mean, chocolate isn't like necessarily everywhere. I mean, it is, but it's like, you don't eat chocolate for breakfast.
I'm gonna say there's definitely chocolate in my house.
I mean, yeah, like, true, right? But you don't eat chocolate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But what I did eat for pretty much breakfast, lunch, and dinner, especially growing up in a Mexican household where like full plates at every meal, full breakfast, full lunch, full dinner, I was like, let me give up meat. And that's why my anniversary is April 6th and not April 1st. And it's because I did fall off the wagon one time because I made a turkey sandwich because I was like, fuck it, it's nothing to eat in this house. So I just made a turkey sandwich. So I started over again on April 6th. But yeah, I did really take it 1 month at a time just for that Instagram challenge. And then I was like, shoot, I went 1 month without meat. It was nothing. That was nothing. So I decided to go another month, right? So I went the whole month of May. And then, what I'm saying, back in high school, the school year ends like in June, like right at the beginning of June, at least from my school it did. So I was like, you know what? I went the whole month of April, the whole month of May without eating meat. Let me try to go the whole summer without eating meat. And by God, I did. And then after that summer was over, I went back to school for senior year. I was like, you know what? I did the whole summer. Let me go a whole year without eating meat. And then I started watching. That's when I kind of started getting really invested in it. Because at first, like I said, it was really just a challenge. I really didn't have any motivation behind it besides just, bragging rights. But the longer I was in it, what I'm saying, I started to get really invested in and why people feel so passionate about this kind of lifestyle. And that's when I watched those documentaries that I mentioned on Netflix. And basically from November until the end of the school year, pretty much up until college, I was completely vegan because those documentaries really changed my life, right? Like in those documentaries, they really showed you just how cruel it really can be in those meatpacking plants, right? Like the cows get tased, right? Like they get tranquilized, shocked so that they can be more submissive when it comes time to kill them, right? Like chickens are being thrown around because that's people's jobs, that they got to meet their quotas and shit like that, right? Like, it's really not fair for anybody involved, right? Not for the chickens, not for the workers. Like, all of it is fucked up on every level, right? That's when I really started to feel more passionate about this kind of lifestyle, is because I started to get more aware of just how fucked up the meat industry is. Like, and I'm gonna say this from an environmental standpoint, a moral standpoint, and I'm gonna even go biblical on this, okay?
Amen.
Environmentally, right? It is completely not sustainable to be raising all of these cows, all of these chickens just to try to feed our society, right? We, like I said, we don't even have enough land for that, to grow all these crops that it would be necessary to feed all these people meat, right? So that's one. Environmentally, cows, they produce more methane. Cow farts, cow patties, they produces more methane in our atmosphere, and contributes to greenhouse gases more than every plane, car, train, boat, any kind of vehicle, all of those combined, right? Every single car in the world, every single plane, everything in the world combined, right? And cows still produce more methane than all of those combined. Just cows on this planet, right? So that's the environmental aspect of it, right? Like, it is completely not sustainable. We don't have enough resources for it. There's not enough water in the world to keep ourselves hydrated, and to keep these cows and these chickens and these lambs and everything else that we grow, to keep them
Not
hydrated.
the lambs.
I gotta throw them all in, because they all play a part in our environment. Right, so that's one, environmentally. Morally, right, we have got to understand that it is completely wrong for us to be injecting these animals with all of these antibiotics, right, to make them fat as shit, right? Like, these chickens that we eat, right, that chicken that you get at the grocery store, the Tyson chickens and shit like that. Well, I don't want to throw Tyson under the bus because I don't want to get sued, but let's just say these big brands, right, of chicken producers, they inject these chickens with so many hormones, with so many antibiotics, right, because they're literally sitting in cages their entire life in their own shit, right? They're literally sitting in their own shit their entire life. They're sitting in these big barns, right? Completely covered, completely inside. Even if they're not in cages, they're all jam-packed in there, walking around. They're so packed in that they don't have enough personal space, right? And that's when they start pecking each other. That's when they start dying of diseases, because they're so packed in there that maybe the workers don't even spot them dead right away, because there's so many of them in there. Like, they don't even notice that a couple of them are dead. And that's how bacteria spreads, and that's how viruses spread, right? Like, it's just not good, right? And they're so injected with these hormones that they become so obese that by 6 weeks old they can't even stand up all the way. These chickens that were like in natural, normal situations, they would be like kind of like thinner. They'd be like very active. They would run around a lot. They're so fat and so big they can't even stand up, and so they're shitting and eating all in the same place. I'm like, morally, you got to take a look and be like, is that the kind of food that I want to eat? Is that the kind of food that I want to eat? Like, knowing that the food that I'm eating right now, this KFC bucket of chicken, their entire lives, those animals were suffering. Knowing that the milk that I'm drinking comes from a cow that cried every single time she was artificially inseminated, had to give birth, and every single time her baby was taken away. That cow's milk that you're drinking, that cow suffered its entire life, bro. She suffered her entire life getting pregnant over and over again, bonding with that baby cow, the calf that's inside of them. Like, regardless of whether or not they actually had sex, right, they actually bond with that calf that's inside of them, and every single time it's taken away. And that's the only way that they keep producing milk, is by they keep impregnating them. They keep impregnating them, and that's their entire life, until they're not useful anymore, and then they get killed to be meat. And then on top of that, from a biblical standpoint, in the Bible, in the Quran and the Torah, before they ate their meals, right, they sacrificed their animals with a blessing. It was a graceful kind of thing, right? For us to just be slaughtering animals thousands by the second, just without a second thought, just these automatic machines just killing them, there's nothing holy about that. God did not intend for us to be eating animals in this way. God wanted us to find the value in the things that he's provided for us, right? And yes, we say grace before a meal, but we're saying grace over an animal that suffered for its entire existence. I don't think it really adds up.
Well, that was sad. But in positive news, goddamn Chick-fil-A milkshakes be buzzing. Zeala, I'm gonna be real with you. You said all that, and I was still drinking Chick-fil-A milkshake. I will fuck that shit up. Them Oreo milkshakes be bussin'. I get what you're saying.
Oreos are vegan, by the way. I don't know if you knew that, but they're vegan.
Listen, I get what you're saying, though. I get what you're saying.
I know that not everybody feels this way, but I know that I'm right, so it doesn't really matter.
I feel like, no, you okay, have you ever dropped food on the floor and then like kissed it and then was like, all right, do that thing up and then ate it? You ever done that?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I am garbage, so I do eat.
You did that, right? That was them blessing the meat back then. Since they had no hand sanitizer, they'd have blessed that meat. They don't know what the fuck was in that goddamn cow. That's was blessing it in the first place. That's A. B. You're right. Chickens especially are in a fucked up situation, right? In their own shit and feces, and I get that wholeheartedly. And I do feel it's antibiotics, stuff like that. I feel what you said is 100% right if you take the emotions out of it. Just the unsafe conditions, then you're eating an unsafe animal.
It just is wild, right? And that's the thing. Like, we're so disconnected from it, right? Because we don't see that shit happens. That's far away. At the grocery store, we just see that it's $1.19 per pound. So we're like, oh, let me get that.
See, because I feel like if I feel like when you are somebody who's hungry, right? And you back in the day, right, in history, right, when we would go and hunt in the open plains and kill an animal, right, we didn't give a shit if that animal had a fucking baby or not. We was hungry. We ate that bitch regardless. You feel what I'm saying? You feel what I'm saying? So I think to your point, I agree with you. Just not about the emotional stuff. Take the emotional stuff out of it. It's fucked up that these people are so sick they have to put antibiotics in there in the first place, and that's the problem I have, right, with it right now. The sad mother and shit. Too bad, bitch. You had to die anyway. It's a dog eat dog world, and you abs getting killed. That's not my problem. My problem is you was shitting on yourself, and it was dirty, and people, and it's the unsafe conditions in general for the workers. You feel what I'm saying? For people who work in these mills, I think that's the thing.
And it's Latino people. I'm gonna just say that.
It is. Yeah,
it's Latino people that work. That come into this country on H-2A visas, which is an agricultural seasonal visa that come part-time or whatever. They don't live here permanently. They just come here during the seasons that they need to come during to, you know what I'm saying, slaughter these animals, work in the meat packing plants. And just by the way, remember how back in the day there was a chicken wing shortage or whatever? Yeah, that's because early on in the pandemic, while everybody else was getting unemployment, everybody else was like not at work, they were still, you know what I'm saying, all of that. Latino people were the only ones still working because they had no protections over them, because they had no status in this country to protect them. So there was no way for them to get sick time off, and that's why they were being worked to death in these meat packing plants. And then finally, COVID started affecting these people, so they started realizing that COVID rates were astronomically high in these meat packing plants, and that's why they finally had to start giving them some sort of COVID protections, and that's why there's a chicken wing shortage, because they finally started giving the protections and finally started telling people, hey, don't come into work sick. And that's why there was a shortage, because at the beginning of the pandemic, they said, fuck that, we're not going to do any COVID protections in here because y'all not even citizens. What y'all going to do? Sue us? You don't have no status.
Playing devil's advocate, if the meat industry was at less, wouldn't those then people who are working there not have jobs?
It's all fucked up. I agree. But at the same time, like, that don't make it right either.
Oh no! But I'm saying, but the thing in a real life portion, right? The reason why these people even have opportunity to feed their families back home is that work, good or bad or ugly, right? Yeah. If that work, naturally, the first thing they're gonna cut, working for somebody corporate, they cut corners is to cut them, right? Yeah. So you know what I mean? It's a weird beast. You're on. You know, some things are too big to fail. You feel what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. It has to be better reworked, but it's all. And it's all messed up. Zeala, I think this is a good end to it. It was serious. We laughed. We cried mostly. But have we learned some things, guys? Any closing words, Zeala?
I don't think I changed your mind. I probably didn't change anybody else's mind. But God damn it, I'm right. I'm going to die on this hill. Maybe not, though. Like, what if 10 years from now, like, I'm going to be like, hey, Darius, I just ate a chicken sandwich. And you'll be like, Zeala, No. But look, man, all I got to say is at the end of the day, I am not trying to change anybody's MO. Look, do you. But at the same time, you don't have to exist in a world where you have to eat meat at every meal. There's a thing called Meatless Mondays. You know, take it into consideration, explore new options. You know what I'm saying? When I ate meat, I never looked at any of the food that I eat now, because why would I, right? Because I had meat right there at all the restaurants that I tried and everything like that. But ever since going vegetarian, I will say it has changed my world in all the new types of food that I eat, right? Like, I never would have even discovered falafel had I not gone vegetarian. And now falafel is one of my favorite foods. So I'm just saying, keep an open mind, right? Explore your options, explore the plant-based options. You might like it, you might not. But just try something. Like, try to see what works for you. I'm not trying to change your life, but if I do, you're welcome.
Yesterday was history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today's a gift. That's why they call it the present. Kung Fu Panda. Listen, bro, all I gotta say is, bro, do what the fuck you want to do. Eat what you want to eat. This shit gonna be underwater in 10 years anyway.
Nah, man.
But
eat your
I
veggies.
just say,
Eat your veggies.
I'm just saying, when you have the option, eat your veggies. But you could be a real nigga about it at the same way, too.
Hell yeah.
And I think...
NLE, what's his name? Chopper, whatever his name is. Yeah, alkaline water. Hashtag alkaline. Hashtag vegan.
Hashtag with that broccoli with a side of chicken breast. Y'all have a great day. This is the Calculate Podcast. I've been Darius.
And I'm Zeala, and it's time for us to wrap this up. We out.
All right.